So why can't we plant our own food? Why can't we feed ourselves? Will we depend on other countries at all times to feed us? I said no. There is a problem, and that problem is agriculture is not being prioritized in Liberia.
Something to Chew On is a podcast devoted to the exploration and discussion of global food systems. It's produced by the Office of Research Development at Kansas State University. I'm Maureen Olevnik, Coordinator of Global Food Systems.
I'd like to welcome back our co-host, Dr. Jim Stack, Professor of Plant Pathology in the College of Agriculture here at Kansas State University. This summer, 24 recipients from the 2022 Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders program joined K-State faculty in learning about leadership and civic engagement. In this episode, we are pleased to welcome one of those participants, Saykwayee Harmony Henry from the Republic of Liberia. Saykwayee is a mother, public speaker, entrepreneur, advocate for the rights of women and children, and is the executive director at Kids Development Initiative. Children in Liberia go to school hungry, while companies from other countries use Liberian land to grow and export crops around the world. The heart of Saykwayee's work focuses on agriculture development and her country's need to produce food for themselves through practical education and prioritizing healthy food production as a lifestyle and profession from a very young age. Well, today I would like to welcome Saykwayee Henry. She is a guest lecturer from Liberia and has come to us working at Kansas State University through the Mandela Washington Foundation. We're here to learn more about Saykwayee and some of the activities she's involved in Liberia. So Saykwayee, could you give us a little background on yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Thanks a lot. I appreciate. I'm Saykwayee Harmony Henry, or Liberian, female. I work with women and children in Liberia. We advocate, we educate, we train, and we empower these women and children for the better of our country, Liberia. Our program is called the Kids Development Initiative. This program is designed for educating young children in separate fields and also women in separate fields, because we realize that the future is our kids and our kids are the future. So we believe in their upbringing. Like for instance, in the field of agriculture, Liberia has a problem of food insecurity. And then majority of its citizens, 75% of youth in Liberia depend on politics and that of business instead of going to agriculture, which is one of the major sources of growing good and environment and healthy environment as well. So to educate these kids, we brought them on board because we want to have a long range of food insecurity, making these children to understand the importance of agriculture and how agriculture is meaningful to society and how you can also transform those products to business. So we are like taking it from step to another step, because we want them to get more interested that when they shall have graduated from the secondary school, they will go into agriculture, because that interest has also been developed from our program. So this is one of the many things that we are doing within the Kids Development Initiative. And we are also into women agriculture, because majority of the work at home has to be done by women. So we believe that women should be empowered to help empower their children as well. So this is what I am doing back home along with my team. We are trying to create that environment, and we are working on it every day.
What brought you to moving in the direction that you are working in Liberia? What caused you to want to do this kind of work?
In the field of agriculture, like I said, Liberia has a problem of food insecurity where the country depends on other countries to provide food. For instance, where I stay in Firestone, we depend on America to provide our food because Firestone is a U.S. company and they have to take food from here to Firestone. While we have a very good soil. And during the COVID, I realized that our president had to go to the Freeport of Monrovia in search of rice, looking in all of the containers that were there to see if Liberia has rice that were imported to the country. So I began to think, we have a very good soil, very rich enough that can produce food for all of our citizens and also feed other countries. Firestone is U.S. company. Firestone come to Liberia, produce rubber that is very, very much huge. And then they also try to plant cocoa, which came up very well. But then their agreement with Liberia did not match the cocoa plantation they were trying to form. They only signed an agreement with Liberia depending on the rubber plantation, but not with cocoa. So if Firestone can come from America to Liberia and produce good crops, what about us, Liberia? We have to take agriculture very seriously. That means our soil is rich enough. Common example, I did a testing of the soil by planting potatoes and that of groundnuts. And it came out very well, very well. So why can't we plant our own food? Why can't we feed ourselves? Will we depend on other countries at all times to feed us? I said no. There is a problem, and that problem is agriculture is not being prioritized in Liberia by the government institutions, civil society organizations, and even by youth and teachers within our country. So as a young woman growing up, it pains me to see that majority of our kids go to school hungry simply because we are depending on other countries for food. And the food that is brought to the country, it has a very huge price that majority of Liberians cannot afford to even buy a daily meal. Let me just give, for instance, in Liberia, we have a mathematical expression where we say 100 or 010 or 001, meaning if you eat one time in the morning, you don't have access to lunch and dinner. If you don't eat lunch and breakfast in the morning, you can eat lunch and then don't eat dinner. So this is the type of life. Why should we live this life when then we have good soil and people can better do a little mini garden for themselves? All I think we need is education to educate these people. So I began to do that from my end. And we started training young people like high school dropouts, college graduates who do not have jobs. We incorporate them within the program, creating job opportunity and making them to understand, because some of them read about agriculture, but they have not practiced it. Sorry, our university in Liberia do not have practical education, even back in our high school. So I was very excited when I came to the US and then went to Kansas and saw the student garden. I was like, what? I think this should be taken back to Liberia because we don't have it. Students are not taught all of this. So they don't really have knowledge on it when it comes to practical education. You sit in class, they just pen on the board and you have to copy in your copybook. You get home, you just read, and the next day you come back, have tests. But what is the practical knowledge that will encourage young people to come on board? So our organization began doing that. We started a workshop with those that already have theoretical knowledge on agriculture. And then the high school dropout, we brought them on board. training them about agriculture, where we created a mini farm that they are working on. And also, we then went back to our kids, brought them on board, because our main idea, our vision is to have a long full range security. So we are training these kids. We brought them on board, those that we already, because I cannot do it alone, and my team of 6 cannot do it alone. So we have to train other people to get involved. So we brought them on board. We had workshop. We went to the garden. We all learned about it. So it is their duty and responsibility to mentor our kids into agriculture, bringing on board the mentoring aspects. So now they are mentoring these kids. And we are not only doing it with our 32 children now within, because every year we incorporate 32. Every year we started since 2017, we incorporate 32. We are also in high schools, going in the very high schools. In Margibi County, we got over 36 primary schools. So of the 36, we are working with 22. So we go to the very high schools, try to talk about agriculture, and try to encourage the science teachers to get engaged with not only the on-board lesson, but also the practical aspects of it that will give more young people the idea of getting engaged into agriculture.
First of all, I commend you on your approach. I completely agree with your assessment. Maureen and I have had multiple conversations about food security and the approach that many nations are taking. And I have my questions about their long-term success. But I really like the approach you're taking. But one of the challenges that the world has had, this is true pretty much everywhere, that as the standards of living increase in a country, the land value increases, and it makes it harder for young people to begin a life in agriculture if they don't own the land. And I'm just wondering how, coupled with infrastructure challenges, how do you envision it evolving in Liberia? How do you see this taking hold and really becoming an important part of your future?
Not only are we working with the children, we are also working with the community. Because of our work with the community, our project, the community was able to give us 20 plots of land to farm on. We incorporated all of these people because those are major stakeholders. They are major stakeholders within the project. Because without them, if we don't work with the community, we won't have access to land. And in Liberia, we have the land law. If we start to farm on this land and we start our farming goal like 5 years, before the owner of the property sell that particular property, they will have to consult us. If we are interested in buying the property, if we say no, we are not, before they can sell the land out. So at times, it doesn't really matter that you have to own the land. Let me go back to Firestone. The management of Firestone, Harry S. Firestone, had to rent the land. He leased the land from Liberia. So the contract was signed for 99 years. He's not the owner of the land, but then he's doing a business on the land. Just like us, we were given the 20 plus of land to farm because our community saw that this project is a very much essential project. And it is helpful not only for those that are in the program, but for the entire country as well. Because that particular project, like when we start our farming, we will have to create a space for toy. Students will come in and toy the farm. They will even have access to a piece or area where they can do a little work. So it is something that is more educative. And in Liberia, you can own your family land. Your family can have a property and just put it in your name until you reach age 18. So at age 18, you can purchase a land if you have money. That's how our land rights works in Liberia. I don't know how it worked back in the U.S.
Maybe a different way for me to ask that question is, what is your hope for Liberia? Is it agriculture as a subsistence, or is it agriculture as a growing agro industry that the country gets behind?
My vision for Liberia is to see Liberians feed themselves. And not only shall we feed ourselves, but we should also have the opportunity to feed other countries. Why will other countries continue to feed us and we can feed them? I want Liberia to go beyond only feeding us, but also feeding other countries. There are products that grow very good in Liberia, but does not grow in Africa, Sierra Leone, Guinea. Those are neighboring countries. They do not really grow there. So as a country, I think we can provide that for neighboring countries and even outside of Africa. So it should not be only to feed Liberia. It's not only my vision. My vision is to see Liberia feed other countries and even have products here in the United States, produce something that the United States will want.
Can you give us a little information on the activity that you were involved with here at K-State? You were here with a group from all over Africa, and I think you were here for 2 months. Is that about right?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay. Give us a little bit of information about what that program is about and how you were involved with it.
The yearly program is a program that was organized by President Obama to educate more young, vibrant, and innovative youth from Africa to help them understand systematic approach and also understand leadership and how they can implement all of this education gain back in their various countries. The Mandela Washington Fellowship, which is the program that I'm currently attending in the United States, is a flagship program of the YALI, the Young African Leadership Initiative Program. This program brought together 700 young people from all over Africa to the United States, training them in public policy, business and entrepreneurial, civil leadership engagement. I was placed at the Kansas State University where I was doing the civil leadership engagement track with the Saleh School of Leadership at the Kansas State University. So this form of the program, they train you on the importance of leadership, how a leader should go about working along with his colleagues. And also to create that environment where African youth can work together, try to understand their importance. With the exception of that, back in Liberia, we don't really experience what is called the experimental learning. They also incorporate that within the program. They bring us to the United States. Not only will you sit in a class and learn, but also we did touring where we toured. Like when they tell you about the Nelson Mandela Act, they took us there. We saw all of those things that Nelson Mandela did. They told us about the House of Senate there in Kansas. They told us about the House of Rep in Kansas. They even brought lawmakers to explain their duties and responsibility to the country and its people, which we don't normally do in Liberia. It's difficult to even see your district lawmaker. It's difficult. Even your city mayor, to sit with the city mayor is difficult. But then we are the one working to buttress the efforts of these people through our local NGOs, nonprofit organizations, yet we cannot speak with them. So how can they understand the problem of the people? These were things that we saw with our real eyes. In Liberia, we say your physical eyes. So we saw them, and then we had the opportunity to even sit in session with some of the secondary students who are practicing law and who are practicing how to become a lawmaker. We sat with them, we saw that they are being trained not only when they enter the university, but back in their high school days. So these are things that are not done in Liberia. You don't just go to the House of Legislature and sit. We don't see that. It's difficult. So these are some of the things that the Mandela Washington Fellowship program really exposed us to.
Kind of going back to agriculture, certainly in Kansas, one of our long-term challenges for agriculture is water. It's a pretty big issue for us, certainly in the western part of our state, where our reliance on groundwater and then you look at the climate change with rainfall patterns moving. What's the water situation in Liberia in terms? especially how it will impact your plans for getting people more engaged in productive agriculture. What's the water situation like? I'm just unaware.
Liberia has two major seasons. We have the rainy season. For now, we are in the rainy season. All over is flooded. I even went on my social media page this morning. Another community is experiencing flood, and we are located along the west coast of Africa. We have easy access to water. For me, I live in Firestone, so there are things I see every day in Firestone. Firestone Plantation Company, what they did was they had to dig wells. They dig the well to get more water. Through that process, they create rivers. Just by digging well, they created a river. So most of Firestone rivers that you will enter, they will tell you is dangerous because they are made from well. So you don't enter those water. And those water also produce electricity within Firestone. So we have access to water, I can say for sure. Like where we have access, and we have access to more swampland. So if you enter Liberia now, what you will see, you will find out that most of the land there are swampland. People are backfilling those swampland to stay on, which is dangerous to climate change. It's very dangerous because those lands should be reserved for crops and other things. But people are backfilling it because those are areas they want to stay in. Because they want to stay there, it is a swampland, so they force it. So Liberia have access to water 24 hours.
Interesting. You mentioned just a minute ago about lack of access to the political establishment. What you just described means you need some policies in place to protect that land. It sounds like a fairly big challenge to get them to understand the need for policies in this arena. How do you go about doing that?
So this is one of the major reasons why we Liberians or Africans are opportune to come to the United States. This problem is not only with Liberia, it's with almost all of the African countries. When people are in position, they tend to create a room that you don't see them easily. They only expose themselves to people who are willing to say good things about them. They don't want people who are competitive. They don't even want to hear from people who ask tough questions. If I sit with the lawmaker now, I read my constitution. So I will go through the constitution. Honorable, this is what is written in the constitution. The honorable don't want somebody that is challenging when it comes to reading the constitution. He wants someone that will always say good things about him, not someone that will ask him questions relating. So we find it difficult, for me, I find it difficult to even see my lawmaker. This is one of the reasons, like I said, we came to the United States to understand how we can meet these people. We have challenges, but how we can overcome these challenges to meet the needs of our people. So one thing was through email. You have to email them. You email them 1 or 2 times. If they don't respond, you take another step because you have to use 2 different approaches that will suit your situation. So if I email you, I can get to you. The next thing, I try to get to someone who is closer to you in order to get to you. Because my goal is to meet you. So I should find a way best that I can meet you. So I think those were approaches that I learned from Kansas State, and I think I'm going to implement this back in Liberia. I know that it will work.
You mentor a lot of children and you mentor a lot of almost adults in high school age. I'm curious, who was your mentor and how did that activity work when you were younger?
I'm self-mentor, number 1. And then I have so many mentors. I have Mr. Eddie D. Jawolo, who is the founder of the National Youth Empowerment in Liberia. NAYMOT is the founder of NAYMOT, NAYMOTE. He's my mentor. And I also have Mr. H.H. Zeze, who is also my mentor. I have other mentors from Ghana who have been working along with me to achieve my goals.
I think it's very important that you also have these connections to your neighboring countries.
What the Young African Leadership Program, one of the important part is creating mentorship. So when I attended the YALI in Accra, Ghana, I was assigned to a mentor. So that mentor has a responsibility to mentor me for over 6 years. But then the contract can continue if the mentor sees it necessary to. Here in Kansas, the Mandela Washington Fellowship, they gave us a coach. So your coach will always be with you. My coach is Trisha Gar. So she has been coaching me in every aspect of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, and we will continue because we have a work plan that was developed and we have to work on it. So we continue with it. That is the most important part of the program that I really love, because it is possible that we are over 700. At times, 200 of us might not achieve our goals. But if we have that encouragement from our coaches and see how best they can work along with us, I think all 700 of us will achieve our goals.
What do you think are the pieces perhaps that are missing? What else can countries like the United States be doing to help you achieve your goals?
Partnership is very much important to me and also to my team, because we believe that working with other countries will create the connection and also will create a stage of improvement in our work. So more often back in Liberia, we partner with other organizations to achieve a particular goal. So for us as a team, we would like to partner with the United States to see how best food insecurity can be eradicated from our country. We have a very good soil, natural soil, which is very, very much rich enough.
When you say partnership, what does that mean when you've got boots on the ground or when you can reach out to one another? What does that partnership look like?
Okay, for us, partnership is you bring something on the table and I bring something on the table and we work with it. It's not like I always bring something and then we're done. We already have 20 plus of land. So if we are seeking partnership, we need our partners to bring tools that we can work with. Because we already have the land, we need tools to work with in order to achieve the goal. So our partners already know that we have land. We have access to land, which is one of the main problems when it comes to farming, because majority of people do not have access to land, but we already have 20 plus of land in Africa is expensive. So we already have that. What we need is tools to do these works. What we really need from our partner to work with our people. We have the human resources. We have people to do the work. We have the land, but we do not have tools. So what can our partner put on the table? Our partner can pull tools to work with.
Yeah, long term, to realize your goals, you'll need an agricultural industry to develop to support that. And yeah, some of that can be what you're saying in the form of partnerships, because oftentimes the mutual benefit is the incentive to engage in a partnership. I think what you're doing by making clear what you have to offer is the best first step. I think you're doing the right thing.
Can you give us some specific success stories that you've had in the programs that you've been putting out there? A couple of things that you say, wow, we moved in here and this really worked for me.
When we started the program, at some point I felt like this cannot work. But as we move on, people try to realize that this project was very essential for us Liberians. So the very first highlight we got was from the Yali RLC television in Accra, Ghana. They highlighted us as the first program because they have done so many programs with young people in Liberia and Africa at large. But coming to this extent of training kids into agriculture, we were recognized as the first institution to do that. And for which other country now from us, they are collecting this idea to work with children in agriculture. It is a success story for us. And another success story, because we have our children, and majority of these children are not in school. For us as a team, we do not really believe in granting students scholarship when the institutions are not well equipped and do not have good facilities for these children. So our team successfully renovated a free primary school for our kids to attend. Now, we don't have to create room for scholarship that is not sustainable, because it will come a time that we cannot afford that financial support to that kid. What become of that kid that yearn so much for education, that test so much for education? What become of that kid? That kid have to drop out of school. So we saw it as a problem, and how can we approach this problem? So we successfully completed that free primary school for our children to attend, where they would not have to pay. But then we also will have to try to find a way to facilitate them into the school. So that's one of our successful stories. And for the field of agriculture, again, we successfully planted and uprooted our potatoes, our groundnuts. They are on our Facebook page. Our kids had to go to the garden because we know of the child rights. So we don't ask you to use the cutlass, but you can uproot the groundnut, which is very simple. So when they uprooted it, they were like laughing, and it was a success story for us because we believe that like your crop, the soil is rich, and we tested the soil and we succeeded. So it is a success story for us. And many other things we have done. We go to the hospital, talk to babies, mothers, and we are trying our best in the area of health as well. Liberia problem, there are so many problems in Liberia that when you are working with kids, you need to recognize all of these problems to have a successful team. Like children, they have problem of health, they have problem of food, they have problem of security. Because if you are training children, you should also realize that there is a security issue. So you have to protect these children. When you go back to Liberia, every morning you wake up from your bed, you will hear that a child is raped, a child is sexually abused, a child is this. So for us in our environment, what we do, we train these children to know their rights and responsibility. We tell you this is what you should do and this is what you are not to do. So these children are also used to go back to the classroom and teach their colleagues that are not part of the program. So this is another way we do peer-to-peer education.
How do you choose which children come into your school? How does that system work?
The building is in a particular community, but then the community, the children in the community, majority of them are not in school because the school was bad off. There was no good roofing. The school was not painted. There was no good classroom. If you go on our Facebook page, you will see that the children had to sit on damaged chairs. Some of them will have to take chairs from their home and bring it. When we realized, because we basically work with schools that do free primary education, so we went around to our various schools, and then we realized this particular community has this school, but it is not well equipped. So as a team, what should we do? We got up together, had a meeting, and we renovated our school. Today we have children in the community because it is basically for the children in that particular community. We also have the government institution, but it is not that big. It is just a little place. But children from that community to the government institution, we have to walk like an hour. I cannot walk an hour to school, an hour back. Some of them don't even eat in the morning. They don't have breakfast. So we saw it as a problem to just reduce the stress on them. So this is one of the schools that we have done out of the thousands. There are so many schools in Liberia that have similar conditions like that. People want to help, but they do not have the financial support to do that.
4 or 5 years ago, the world passed, at that point, more than half of the total population resided in an urban center. And what we're seeing globally in almost every country is people moving to the cities. How do you manage that trend with trying to increase the importance of agriculture and engaging interest in young people to become farmers, growers, and invested in agriculture? I don't know, maybe hasn't reached Liberia yet, but certainly in most countries, it just seems like more and more young people are moving to the cities.
So Liberia, we had that problem a lot. Like me, I live 2 hours away from my university. I had to go to the city. The transportation is huge. I will have to pay a huge amount every day to go to school. Some families feel like we cannot waste this amount of money when we have to just get an apartment for our kid in the city for the child to go to school. Most of our university are based within the capital. So people leave from Grand Bassa and other places to go to the university. But during Her Excellency, Madam Ellen Johnson, the very first female elected president of Africa, which is the former president of my country, when she came, she saw it as a problem. Why should we always migrate to the city to just gain education when we have land owned by government within every county? So this is what she did, because she has a veto power. So one of her veto powers she used at that time was to tell the education department to build colleges in every county. So for us, we have the HACO, the Habel College, where people learn more about agriculture. So we have over 200 plus students attending that particular college. And there are even new annexes that are being added to the College of Habel College, which is HAPCO. Just like Magibi County, we also have the Grand Bassa Community College. We have the Wapolu Community College. So every county now has a college, meaning majority of the young people do not necessarily have to go to town now, have to go to Monrovia. You can just stay within your county and attend your college of choice. So you find out that majority of young people will remain in Firestone, in Magibi County, go to the college and then back. Because some family cannot even afford the tuition. The tuition is high and then the transportation is high. Some university in the capital charge like $15 per credit. And to earn $15 in Liberia is difficult. You have to be a working class person to earn that. But then the college back home, you do not have to pay that amount. At times, the government will tell you just do your registration and go to college. Even the University of Liberia, which is not located in the capital anymore, Fendel is almost around where I live. Majority of the students go to Fendel. They do not go to the capital. So this is how young people now, this is one of our way of keeping young people back in their various counties.
Very impressed with what you're trying to accomplish. I think this is excellent. You should feel pretty proud about that.
Kind of in a stepwise method, what are your next goals for the children that you're working with? Long term, obviously, you want to see Liberia, the agriculture industry growing and producing more food. Obviously, this happens in a stepwise progression, and you've got a lot of barriers that are probably challenging you at every step of the way. But what goals would you have for the near term?
Right after our 6th week of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, I am in Texas for the Professional Development Experience, which is a program within the Mandela Washington Fellowship that allows 100 out of the 700 fellows who are more vibrant and who are more talented to stay within the United States and work with institutions within the United States. So I'm now with the YMCA of Austin, working here in Austin. So one of the goals of this program is to make young people to be independent, not depending on the institution. Back in Kansas, the institution was responsible for us to feed us, to take us out, to do everything. But now I live alone in this apartment. I have to find means of transportation to go to my working place, which is very good for us. And I think it will be good for our kids back home. Independent living. This is what I realized within the United States. So if children start to understand how to live independently and how to do things for themselves, when they should have grown up, I feel that they will do more than what is expected of them. At first, I was being babysitted. I was being pampered by K-State team, everything. Saykwayee, are you okay? Saykwayee, do you need this? But now nobody is asking me. So this is one of the major part of our program and part of our vision to create an independent so that children can create independent living for themselves. We do tie in that. We do other program within the program where we train you into business and entrepreneurial. Case Development Initiative is on Facebook. We teach you how to make earrings, how to make clothing, how to make sandals, slippers, because we want you to create that entrepreneurial knowledge that you cannot be easily moved by finance. Like one of the major reasons for rape is lack of financial support. Majority of those children, they will use, the family will see this person is an uncle The uncle is trying to help this child. According to what we listen to, the uncle is trying to help this child, send this child to school. At the end of the day, the uncle will be the same old person to abuse this child only because he is financially supporting this child. So if this child has the opportunity to make 2 or 3 slippers, we encourage them by buying it from them. We purchase it from you ourselves, just to encourage you to do more and have this financial independence from that stage. We teach you the Liberia's children law because we will not always be with you. You have to understand it that when a guy or someone touch you inappropriately, you should complain. We will not always be with you. So you have to learn all of this. We teach you about agriculture because we want you to make a backyard garden or mini farm for yourself that you can have access to food when you are hungry. We will not be with you always. Life is not as long as we see it. So we are trying our best to train them to live independently. When I started this living independently right here in the United States where I am, I feel so happy. It is part of what I'm training our kids to do. So I think I should do the same.
I'm glad you came to K-State. I hope you had a very good visit. Yeah, reach out if you need anything. I mean, there are so many people here at K-State, but throughout our educational system in the U.S., so many people are looking to help other people. So know that resource is there.
So one thing I learned from K-State and from Maureen is the aspect of donation. People have to donate this food. You don't need the food. You don't have to throw it in the trash. You donate it. It can be a help to others. I think I went to the cat area where she showed me some of those food that was donated. In Liberia, we don't do that. You will find out that the restaurant will cook that huge amount of food and just dispose it because people don't buy it. While we have thousands of young people who sleep on empty stomach. It is painful, including babies. Some parents cannot even afford $1 a day because things are so tough. Times are tough. People don't even afford, but then supermarkets will see this food is expired. They know that the expiry date is approaching, but they don't want to donate. They don't want to give out to others. So I think it is simply because we who are in the civil society organization have not had this awareness with them. It is one approach, major approach that I have learned, and I think I will implement it back home. And thanks to Maureen for showing me that. I'm honored.
That's wonderful. We did a quick tour, which is of the Cat's Cupboard, which is just downstairs here. And Manhattan-Riley County Food and Farm Council has just rolled out a program called the Flint Hills Recovery System that connects people in need of food, people that are willing to volunteer to go pick it up, and people that have food available online. So there are a lot of ways to do it, and I'm glad that was something that you found helpful, Saykwayee.
Thank you. And I hope to work with the team to see how best we can implement our project in agriculture back home, make use of the 20 plus of land that was given by the community.
If you have any questions or comments you would like to share, check out our website at ksu.edu/research/global food and drop us an email. Our music was adapted from Wayne Gowen's album, Chronicles of Carmela. Special thanks to him for providing that to us. Something to Chew On is produced by the Office of Research Development at Kansas State University.